Alrighty, now we actually have audio. Sorry about that, guys. So I'm going to repeat everything I just said before because no one could hear me. It's one of those things. I'm a little tired. I had the kids last night for a little while. Not as long as my wife came home late from girls' night, and then of course right when she got home and she got to bed and she laid her head on the pillow and said, "Ah." Then the baby woke up. So of course that's just how life goes. So I'm not going to complain too much about being tired, but yeah, I'm a little punchy. So I forgot to actually turn on the local microphone, so as I was chatting, everyone was hearing the KFAB feed. So anyway, got that all fixed. Sorry about that. My apologies. But one of the cool stories that we didn't get to on the show today, Firefox is making a new type of browser called a voice browser. It's literally just like it sounds. It's a browser that you don't need a screen for. You'd use your voice, you tell it to go places and you tell it to do things, and it reads things back to you. Imagine what this is going to do for the visually impaired. There's already a prototype built for Amazon Alexa. I don't know if the prototype is actually available. They don't have a written story here. It's all video. It's called Project Scout. And Project Scout was displayed in a 2018 meeting in San Francisco this week. So they're showing it off privately, but it doesn't sound like it's available to the public masses yet. But you'd say, "Hey Scout, read me the article about polar bears," and it says, polar bears are blah 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 blah. So imagine, for example, you're on a website like the Omaha World Herald, and then Alexa would read you all the headlines on the page, and you say, "Hey Alexa, read me the story about the football coach." Now, Alexa is going to have to figure out what story you're talking about. So football is a sport, so it's probably in the sports headlines, and coach is a person who runs a team. So who are the coaches of Nebraska sports? And Scott Frost is a football coach in Nebraska, and there's a story about Scott Frost in the sports section. That's probably the article you meant, so I'm going to read you the article about Scott Frost, even though you didn't ask for the article about Scott Frost. You asked for the article about the football coach. This is an example of artificial intelligence. So on one hand, it's really easy to do the stories every week. We're like, Terminator, end of times, the AIs are coming for us. Oh! But this is an example of artificial intelligence actually being really useful. And figuring out what you mean and not what you said. There are human beings that cannot figure out the difference between what you mean and what you say. And there are people who don't understand you have to say what you mean and mean what you say. But if we have artificial intelligence, apparently the computers can figure it out now, which is going to be really handy. Imagine this for visually impaired people. We have a lot of visually impaired customers at Schrock. This would be an amazing boon to the visually impaired. To have a native browser that could be run with your voice. And it would change. It's going to change the way that people design websites too, because if browsers like this catch on, you're going to have to design your website to work with these browsers if you want to maximize the reach of your audience. And then this is just the natural. Last night, for example, I was beat. I was laying in bed, and I was reading Zero Hedge. I was reading articles in Zero Hedge. There's some good ones on there. There's a lot of garbage on there, but there's some good ones sometimes. And my eyes were literally burning, and I was so tired, but I wanted to finish this story because it was a really interesting story. I mentioned it on the show about the acoustic attacks on diplomats in China and Cuba. I don't know if you've heard about this in the news, but a bunch of diplomats and their families were just brought home from Cuba, and they have like permanent neurological damage, and nobody understands how they're getting this neurological damage. And they're thinking it's an acoustic attack, a sound attack, that is damaging their brains permanently. So this is like wow, how does that even happen? Now it's happening in China too. And there's like, what is going on that, now China, people are coming home from China with permanent brain damage, and it's just the diplomats and their families though, and their families. So it's not even, your family doesn't come to the embassy with you and sit in the office and, have all the meetings and everything. So what's going on? Well, there is this whole field in computing called ultrasonics. Now, ultrasonics, the last time we had a ruling on what is safe in ultrasonics, it's like, how much cigarette smoke can you inhale and not get cancer? Or how many times can you talk on a cell phone and not give yourself a brain tumor? There are actually numbers on those things now, apparently. Well, the last numbers that were generated to talk about the health effects of ultrasonic sounds were made in 1984. 1984. Okay? Yeah, that was a long time ago. I think Simon Says was the top electronic game at the time. I mean, it was a long time ago. So the world has changed now, and ultrasonics are used in everything. You're exposed to ultrasonics every day, everywhere you go. No joke. You're probably hearing ultrasonics right now, and you don't even know it because they are ultrasonic. You can't hear them with your ears. Very young people can hear them because what happens is as we age, the ability for you to hear these really high-pitched electronic sounds, for whatever reason, your biology changes as you get older, and you can't hear it, but young children can hear it usually. It sounds like a high-pitched whine or a squeal. Well, what they're thinking is happening now, thank you, is the ultrasonics are actually eavesdropping attempts. It's attempts to spy on the diplomats. And what's happening is there are so many ultrasonic devices trying to spy on the diplomats at the same time. Some of them are of higher quality than others. You could make an argument that some of them are manufactured in China, so they may not be the best quality ultrasonic devices. And where do you think Cuba's getting a lot of their devices? Probably from China. So maybe there's a trail there. But basically, that all these ultrasonic devices, when you have all these sounds, basically beams of sound overlapping each other, that they sometimes interact with each other, and they can make audible tones. And some diplomats have reported hearing weird, like electronic buzzing sounds and things like that in the office. They don't know what they are. Families have reported hearing that as well, because the next best thing to spying on a diplomat at work is spying on him when he's telling his wife about his day. So all these ultrasonic attacks are going on. They're not really attacks, they're just eavesdropping is what everyone's thinking now. Eavesdropping gone terribly wrong. But ultrasonics are used in pretty much almost every TV commercial that comes up on your TV screen. There on your screen has an ultrasonic tone in it. And what that ultrasonic tone does is it manipulates other devices in your room, like your cell phone. So that when you go and Google a product you were thinking about, now they can track that you saw a commercial on TV because your phone heard the ultrasonic tone. Amazon Alexa monitors ultrasonic tones. All the Google Home Assistant, they all do. Cell phones all monitor. In fact, there is one instance of in Cuba, these ultrasonic tones were used to activate Google Voice Search on a phone. That you can literally manipulate a cell phone through ultrasonics. You can give it commands to do things through ultrasonics. It's mind-blowing. So I'm reading this article, my eyes are just burning. Boy, I would have sure loved to be able to close my eyes and just let my phone read me the article. Wouldn't that have been great? I'm not even visually impaired too badly. I don't wear them during the show. This is my Clark Kent, so when I'm at work, I go like this, and no one knows who I am until I talk. It's weird. It's like, woo, I'm the radio guy. Woo, I'm the work guy. Hey, there we go. So, but I'm not even that visually impaired, and just would have been nice to have it read it to me. But it was a really interesting article. I'll see if I can find it, and I'll post it on here in a little bit here. All right, so maybe ultrasonic is why my ears ring so much. All three of my kids hear the high-pitched sounds. The oldest still do it, 33 and 28. Wow. Well, I also have tinnitus in my left ear. I got an ear infection when I was a senior in high school. Lost 40% of my hearing in my left ear, which is why if you come into the service center and I have a headset on and you're talking to me and waving, "Hi, Thor," I literally don't hear you. Because I have the headset on my only good ear, So I have to, when people are trying to crosstalk while I'm on the phone, I have to lift it away from my ear and listen. It's crazy. But the Marines still tried to recruit me out of high school, though. Oh, we can get around that. It'll be fine. You got to meet those recruitment goals. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to make room on my C drive. I backed up and deleted my personal files, videos, documents, pictures. I have 18 gig of files in my user profile that I can't find. I've gone through all the icons in my user file, and I can't find this huge chunk of data. All right, so Thomas, there's a program that I would recommend called CCleaner, and you can get that at puriform.com. Puriform.com. Let me get that typed in here. It helps if I click there first. Puriform.com. Go to puriform.com and download CCleaner. CCleaner is a free program. And it's also supported by Secure Updater. Secure Updater will keep that up to date for you if you're a Secure Updater subscriber. But CCleaner will go through and clean up a whole bunch of areas of the hard drive that the Windows Desk Cleanup doesn't do. The Schrock Desk server in the Omaha Service Center is where that's located, and it was acting a little funky. Like you go to log in as an administrator, and it would just not let you log in. You would have to reboot it, and then it would suddenly work for an afternoon, and then you couldn't log in anymore. So finally, I'm like, yeah, I have a whole shop full of computer techs, but it's kind of like, the plumber in his own pipes. Nobody wants to work on their own stuff because we're busy working on other people's stuff. But I got tired of not being able to log in when I needed to log in and having them reboot the server all the time. So I decided to take a look and see what's going on. Our C drive was completely full. Same thing. It was like literally 100% full. And I was like, oh my gosh, why is this stupid C drive full? So I went through and removed all the stupid stuff from the server that didn't need to be there. And I freed up like 3 gigs. I ran Windows Disk Cleanup, freed up another 2 gigs of data. Then I ran CCleaner, and my drive went from having like 3 gigs available to having 3 gigs in use. So yeah, CCleaner is amazing. So that's going to find a lot of that stuff for you. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you make your hidden files visible. A lot of that information you can't see is application data stored in the app data folders. Word of warning, if you make your hidden items visible, things are made invisible to protect you because they shouldn't be just wantonly deleted. For example, if you delete your application data folder, Drive Advisor will no longer know who you are. Don't want to do that. Secure Updater will no longer be able to automatically log you into your Secure Updater account. You'll need to know your password to log in. So app data is used to make your computing experience better, but it does take up a little bit of space. It shouldn't take up 18 gigabytes though. So definitely run CCleaner. See about getting that cleaned up on there for you. All right, let's see. What else did we get to on the show? Apple suddenly remembers the Mac or remembers that you care about it. This is from ZDNet. Out of nowhere, Apple adds celebrating the Mac. How strange. So basically, there was a lot of consternation about the fact that at the last Apple conference, there was no update, no hardware refresh for the Mac. The last time Mac's hardware was updated was 2 years ago. So when you buy a Mac right now, you're paying $2,000 for a computer that is 2 years outdated. So that means it's like 6th generation Intel chips, as opposed to 8th generation Intel chips. And you're paying 2 to 3 times the price you would for a PC already. Now, a lot of people will say it's because I like Mac. I want the Mac operating system. I want OS X. I believe that Mac makes a superior product. And if you believe that, that's fine. But man, it's really frustrating when you're buying a computer and you're giving Apple the time of day. You're saying, Apple, I love your product. I want to have your product. I just wish you'd keep it up to date. Here's the article if you guys want to take a look at it for later too. But they're commercials. So Apple's response after this huge uproar, literally there were articles coming out on ZDNet that said the Mac is dead. And the next Mac, the reason they're not updating the hardware is because it's all going to go to the cloud. Your Mac is going to be a terminal to access your iCloud account. And it won't do anything locally anymore. It'll all be in the cloud. And that caused a lot of people to freak out because creative people use these computers to do creative things, and the cloud is not necessarily ideal for the size of the files that creative people have. Video files especially are huge. So Apple kind of had a PR mess on their hands here. So they decided to launch commercials. Let's not update the hardware. Let's do commercials. And so behind the Mac, here's Peter Karuki, the Rwandan creator of the Safe Motos app, which makes roads safer for all who use them. He made a Mac to code the whole thing. Here's his story, how he changed the world with his Mac. All right, let's see here. And here's musician Grimes. She says she doesn't need permission to do things. Lately, though, it seemed like Apple was giving customers permission to use any other laptop by resolutely refusing to update its own MacBooks. For Grimes, though, the true joy of the Mac gives her the chance to work on the floor, quite literally. Who needs a studio when you have a Mac? You know, you can put any laptop on the floor, Grimes. Yeah, pretty cool. Let's see. Photographer Bruce Hall, who's legally blind, a legally blind photographer, uses Mac, has his own ad. In this one, he says, has the MacBook improved my vision? Absolutely. It's allowing me to do things I couldn't do a decade ago. Well, that's great. So you should buy the MacBook because no other laptop has a screen for that looks clear to blind people. I don't even understand that ad. The Mac is Apple's most gloriously neglected product. Its combination of lightness, simplicity, and sheer aesthetic joy was unsurpassed for years. Yet Cupertino suddenly decided for warped commercial reasons to tell you that the iPad is now a computer. What have we been telling you on the program for years? Tablets are great for consuming media. They are not good for creating. Now, my son will make videos on his phone with his friends, and they'll slice them together and add sound effects and everything. You can create with a tablet or a phone, but they're not ideal for that. The computer is still the go-to for that. But Apple wanted to move iPad, so Apple told you that the iPad was a computer. This made Microsoft laugh a lot. That's the quote. So while you wondered what a Mac was now, I asked Apple whether these ads are a small bow of shame to those who remain frustrated that Apple doesn't bother to update its Mac range from one year to the next. I'll update the article if I get a reply. He didn't get a reply. In the ad series, though, the one that hits the heart the hardest shows an intensely personal relationship between human and Mac as human tries to create and Mac sits there doing humans' bidding, tolerating humans' whims and looking sublime at the same time. Make something wonderful is Apple's tagline. Yes, Apple, why don't you? Why don't you make a new, wonderful Mac? Oh, it's just an idea. Yeah, that's a harsh article. So yeah, so there's the link. If you want to watch the commercials, you can watch them there at that link I posted. Now, here's the next question. Do you guys buy anything on Etsy? Do you know what Etsy is? Etsy is an online marketplace for crafting. So if you're crafty, if you make things and you want to sell the things you make, you can sell them on Etsy. So for example, my wife is insanely, amazingly good at making cookies. And I don't just mean like good tasting cookies. Like literally, she breaks out the airbrush and the stencils and she makes a cookie. So she got her, for the 4th of July, we have a 4th of July party every year. She has her American flag cookie cutter. That's a wavy American flag. She's going to cut the cookies, put the stencil on it, and airbrush the red, white, and blue. And then she got some special food coloring stuff that makes it look shimmery, so the stars will actually shimmer on the cookies when they in the light. I mean, so as the fireworks are popping in the sky, red, white, and blue glory, the cookies on the plate will be sparkling back at you, reflecting the goodness of American glory. Wow! She could sell those cookies on Etsy if she wants to. Going price for a cookie on Etsy is $3 to $5 a cookie. Things like that. So if you want to sell on Etsy, Etsy has announced that they're going to be raising their seller fees. So this is the cut that Etsy takes when you sell something. So you don't get the full $3 to $5 a cookie. You get $3 to $5 a cookie less the Etsy price, the Etsy fee, basically. So Etsy is arguing that they need to spend more money on marketing to tell people what Etsy is, because I would venture a guess that, feel free to post a comment if you had no idea what Etsy was before I just told you what Etsy was. And it's Etsy, ETSY.com, by the way, if you want to check it out, all the craftiness there. But basically, a lot of people don't know what Etsy is, so they want to spend more money on marketing and, of course, customer support. Because when people buy things on Etsy, they're crafty things. They're being made for you. Well, we all know that sometimes you're knitting the socks and it's got a sixth toe. Whoops, sorry about that. I got to start over again. So sometimes you don't get your stuff right away, and there's communication. The vendors need to talk to the customers, and they don't always communicate well, and Etsy might need to step in, very much like eBay does from time to time, to help make sure that everybody's protected and getting what they're paying for in the transaction. The Brooklyn-based crafts vendor expects a fee hike to provide a substantial boost to its revenue. That's the subhead. Marketing department, we need to raise our seller fees, and we need a way to do that in such a way that sellers are not going to openly revolt. Give me 2 headlines. All right, headline 1. Etsy is raising seller fees to spend more on marketing and customer support. Not bad. Headline 2. The Brooklyn-based crafts vendor expects fee hikes to provide a substantial boost to its revenue. Not so good. Yeah, you took more of my money. That's going to boost your revenue. Not like you're knitting the socks, Etsy. Thanks. So basically, the per sale transaction fee is going from 3.5% to 5%. The fee hike is the first ever by Etsy and will take effect July 16th. So Thomas, no, they didn't do it recently. You might be thinking of eBay, who did hike their fees recently, but it's going, but 3.5% all the way up to 5%. That's darn near. That's not quite double. It's like a 40% hike. That's pretty significant. The fee structure will allow Etsy to invest in marketing strategies that attract more buyers. So if you're a seller, these increased fees mean you're going to be able to sell more of your stuff at a loss. It's great. Improve customer support and drive product innovation. That means they'll be able to develop new stuff for the website, basically, with the increased revenue they'll have in their bank account. The fee also applies to the cost of shipping. So they're going to raise shipping costs as well, which is what your customers pay when you sell things on Etsy. So yeah, if you're an Etsy user, that's not going to be fun. All right, so the last story I've got for the show here today, guys. This one is fun because I'm gonna mishmash a few different stories together for you. So there was a story last week. I don't know that we covered it on the show because it didn't really have a real good hook that was computer or security related. But there was a story about a Tesla that crashed into a center median. There was something with the traffic or whatever wasn't right, and the Tesla got confused about where it was supposed to go, and it crashed into the divider and killed the occupant. It literally crashed and it exploded into an inferno of flame that was so hot it literally cremated the occupant of the vehicle. Yeah, I don't use the word cremated lightly. He was toast. All right, I could have said that better, but yeah, he was very dead, very, very, very dead, very, very, very quickly. And it's because of that battery. So the battery underneath the car stores enormous amounts of energy. It makes a car go. I mean, think about this is how much energy is stored in gasoline. It's amazing when you think about it. That so much energy is stored in this battery that when the car crashed and the battery twisted or ruptured. Remember we had exploding laptop batteries a few years back? That's what this is, but on a way upscale. So the car crashed, torqued the battery, and the battery, as opposed to slowly releasing all that energy toward the drivetrain of the vehicle, dramatically released the energy and in the form of thermal energy very quickly, causing the whole vehicle to burn up. It was revealed that the occupant of the vehicle did have the autopilot feature enabled, which allows the Tesla to determine whether it's in its lane, to maintain acceleration following distance, to auto merge in traffic, things like that. It's a semi-autonomous driving mode. You're still supposed to touch the steering wheel once every 5 seconds to let the car know that you're still paying attention to what's going on. But most people will hold their phone on the steering wheel like this and watch Game of Thrones or whatever they're watching on the phone. So basically the guy died, and there was an NTSB review that said the car actually accelerated as it was going into the median. It didn't even slow down. It didn't even brake. So that's your preface story. Headline today: Tesla will upgrade autopilot with full self-driving capabilities in August. That's right. In August, which, for those of you not looking at the calendar, is a month and a half from now. Teslas that have the sensor package, when you buy your Tesla, you have to opt for the sensor package so you can have the fully driving mode. It costs about $5,000 extra. And at this point, it was $5,000 extra just to have the sensors so that when they release the full auto mode, you would be able to get it. If you don't have the sensors, you obviously can't do it, and to retrofit the car later is a lot more expensive. So a lot of people have these sensors on their. If you're buying a Tesla, you're buying the sensors because you're buying a Tesla. It's an $80,000 car. You're buying a Tesla. You're buying the sensors for $5,000. You're not going to split hairs about $5,000 on an $80,000 car. So in August, these cars will be driving themselves on the road, fully autonomous. Now, fully autonomous. What does that mean? Now, maybe they mean something different by fully autonomous. Fully autonomous to me means I can sit in the back seat and live stream on Facebook while my car drives me to work. That's what fully autonomous means to me. And apparently Teslas will be doing that starting in August. This is going to be really interesting to watch because the first person who gets killed while their Tesla was in full autonomous mode, wow, the memes are going to be intense about that. So anyway, fun times, guys. This is your last call for questions. If you have a question or comment, something you meant to ask during the show I didn't quite get to, now's your time. You can type it in down here on the comments, and I'll see it on the comment feed, and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, come on, it's 24 minutes in. This is almost like a whole second show. My voice is starting to give out. I don't know, maybe I'm talking too loud. Maybe I need to talk more quietly, more subdued. But I get excited about things, Sorry. So yeah, I was talking earlier in the program when we were talking about the endpoint sale, about semantic endpoint being ranked the top one in most recent tests. So let me see if I can get those results for you, so you can actually see, because a lot of you may not have endpoint. You may have something like McAfee. You want to see how McAfee stacks up. You might have Windows Defender. You want to see how that stacks up. So I'm going to see if I can get the article here for you that will show you how all of your antivirus. And this is business grade stuff. This is not consumer grade. So this is McAfee endpoint security, Kaspersky endpoint security. These are among business options. So if you have an office or a business, you'll know exactly how good your antivirus is at work. And if you're using consumer-based antivirus at work, that's a real bad idea. You shouldn't be using Norton Security at work. You should be really using endpoint or something along those lines to keep your computers safe. Sorry, this is a long URL and I'm typing it manually because copying and pasting across computers still takes too long. Business-Windows-client. Go. Let's see if I typed it right. I'll copy it just in case. And I did type it correctly. 10 points for Thor. All right, here we go. Boom. All right. So there it is if you guys want to take a look at it. Let me see. One of the worst ones was the Palo Alto Networks. Was dismal. F-Secure, dismal. G-Data, dismal. You probably never heard of a lot of these. Sophos, not great. Avast, not great. Bitdefender, not great. Not bad, but not great. Kaspersky Labs and McAfee both had some issues in performance. They did a good job securing the computer, but they slowed it down a lot. Windows Defender slowed the computer down, was not very usable, and also didn't have the best protection. We've been talking. You can only say it on the air so many times, guys. I mean, so yeah, this is kind of interesting, and you can actually go back in time and take a look. So they have the last time they measured before this was in February. So in February, semantic endpoint, got a knock for performance. So this shows you that was version 14. And now in April, they have version 14.2, I believe. No, it's still version 14. So let me get this straight. Endpoint lost a half circle for performance with version 14 last February. They didn't change anything, and they get all the circles now. That's kind of weird. Anyway, maybe they streamlined something somewhere. I don't know. All right, so if you would, guys, take a moment to like and share the show we had on Facebook. It's really helpful for us. I ask you guys to do it every show, and I really appreciate it, and a lot of you do, and I really appreciate that because when you share it, it helps us get out in front of more people. One of the things about running a business, obviously, is advertising, and the whole world of advertising has changed. We used to have phone book ads. It used to be you had to stay on, you had to have TV commercials, you had to have radio commercials. Now, if you do the web right, you can get, especially when you're in computer repair. Everybody's got a computer. If you do the web right, you can do a lot of great advertising and free up a lot of dollars that can be spent toward other things. Kind of like Etsy, right? No, honestly, that's the thing. When we save, we took the Morning Blend money, for example. They canceled the Omaha Morning Blend, was our weekly TV appearance that we did. They canceled that show entirely, so we don't have that anymore. So we took the money from that. And also, ironically enough, we paid to be on the register receipt tapes of the Hy-Vee grocery store chain. And the one right next door to our shop didn't get enough advertisers, so they fell off too. So we have some extra advertising dollars. And what are we doing with those? We're looking at adding WHO in Des Moines so that our show can be heard from Chicago all the way through to the panhandle of Nebraska. It's going to be an amazing addition when we get that done. So you sharing, liking, it helps us so much. It helps us do those crazy, amazing things. Once we get to be a regional radio show, at that point, we'll be able to attract guests in some cases. We don't have a whole lot of guests on the show. I think the last guest that we had was the guy that was building a UFO in his garage, because that was just a really cool thing. Like he was building some kind of a warp drive in his garage or something in Exarban Village. I haven't heard any explosions, and his website is still there. He's still updating it, so I just maybe we should have him back. It's been a couple years, but we can actually get some guests. So when maybe you want to tell Microsoft, how dare you destroy my stuff every 6 months with your updates? Maybe we can actually get someone from Microsoft to come on the show and defend themselves. What say you, Mr. Microsoft? But it all starts with you clicking that share button, clicking that like button, and from what I've been educated on now, clicking like and following are two different things. So make sure you follow Schrock Innovations, because the follow is what makes sure that when we post an article or something, it shows up on your feed or has a likelihood of showing up on your feed. So that, we've tried to post interesting stuff like the stories from the show today. So these links that I've posted down here will be posted on our Facebook page throughout the week as well. But check it out. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you hanging around. All right, guys, I got to roll. Got to get home. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Hope you enjoy your day today. And if you forgot about Father's Day, it's not too late to run out and get a card. Selection's a little thin, but you can get it done. And we'll see you again next week for another edition of Compute This.